Hey guys, what's up? It's your friendly neighborhood UberGoose here, back again with another Dota 2 video. This one we're going to be talking about Underlord, but before we actually get into it, I just want to warn you, this is a game from, I believe it was the grand finals of the EU qualifiers for Captain's Draft 4.0. So if you don't want any spoilers on that, definitely turn the video off, but I will, of course, encourage you to keep watching because it is a very cool game. So let's talk about Underlord. He was in this game picked up by OG. This is Captain's Draft. If you don't know how Captain's Draft works, I'll briefly explain it to you. There are basically 36 heroes are picked. I believe 36. It should be 12 of each main stat. At complete random, it can include heroes that are not normally in Captain's mode, say Dark Willow, and then you basically have 3 bans on each team and then pick all in sequence. 3 bans are always at the start. And it's a very cool format, and I would highly recommend you actually watch a bunch of Captain's Draft. It's a very fun tournament every single time it gets put on, and this is the 4th event of this kind. So, let's talk about Underlord, the big daddy of the video, the topic. So, Underlord, I have been saying, and actually playing, quite a bit of Underlord for a while now, and I've been saying that he is very good for quite a while, and he's been picked up in niche situations in pro games. He's definitely not a very popular pick, but sometimes he is picked up and he oftentimes looks very good. Briefly to describe his skills, he has Firestorm, which basically in a relatively small area, it'll call down waves of fire that deal damage on impact and damage over time. The damage over time has a duration of 2 seconds. Then he has Pit of Malice. This is the biggest, most nasty AoE crowd control skill possibly in the game. Huge area, lasts a long time, and then roots for a duration. And then it has a cooldown between each root because it can multi-root. And you can actually chain these roots, for example, with a Rod of Atos. As long as you can hold them in the pit for another 1.8 seconds, they'll get hit with another root. And there is actually a level 25 talent that adds another 0.8 seconds, meaning there's only a downtime of 1 second between each root. It's very nasty, very powerful. Then he has Atrophy Aura. This is a pretty unique skill. It just reduces base damage of units that are near you, enemy units that are near you, and upon killing enemy units that are near you, or rather enemy units near you dying, so under the effect of Atrophy Aura, you will actually gain bonus damage for a duration. And of course, if a hero dies, you'll get a much larger chunk of damage. Creeps stay consistent across all levels of the skill, but the duration also scales, and it can be very powerful. And then his ultimate, it's whatever, who cares? No, but it's basically a team-wide boots of travel, as long as they're near you. It's filthy. The most powerful thing about this is that you actually literally cannot stop it from going off once the Underlord has finished his cast point on it, which in fact I should very quickly look up. I do actually have his page open already, so it is a 0.6 second cast point, so after that 0.6 seconds is up, then there's the teleport delay, 6, 5, 4 seconds, depending on the level, and it will just go. You can't stop it, period. It's not like relocate. You can actually stop relocate with a stun, but you cannot stop Dark Rift. And it can, of course, be targeted on the fountain because it is Boots of Travel, and it can be used for basically low committal type fights where you poke and prod, and if you see an opening, you go for it, and if they start to open up on your team, you can just Dark Rift the fountain and be like, everybody hop in, and then after 4 seconds, you'll go back to base. It was actually 3 seconds for a time, but it has since been nerfed. And it's pretty good, right? Like, it's a really strong skill. To briefly talk about what you're seeing in game right now, this is unusual for Underlord. Like I said, Underlord is picked sometimes, not a very popular pick, definitely niche, but even in his niche pickedness, he's pretty much never played as a position 1. This is very unique. I think No Tail may have actually done this one time before. I'm not certain on that. Do not quote me. I swear to God if you quote me. But I think position 1 Underlord can work very well, and I guess spoilers for the outcome of this game, very brief. It works out. And it's pretty cool. I think Underlord is definitely, despite pros picking him up sometimes, I do think he is almost certainly underrated in the pro scene at the current moment. Going in on Skylark, not enough damage. Unfortunately, Underlord as a position 1 does not offer much to a tri-lane that attempts to kill somebody unless the opponent fucks up, which in pub games they do all the time. Nobody actually expects the Underlord to just punch you, and he punches you really hard. He has a 1.7 BAT, which is fairly standard, but his base damage is quite high, and then he also has pretty decent base strength, which is, you know, accentuated with his decent strength growth. I say decent, but it is still very good. 2.9 is high, or rather on the high end, but compared to other strength heroes who have high strength, it is actually pretty low. It's nothing compared to a 4.3 of Centaur, or even 3.3. There's like 4 heroes with 3.3. I think Tiny being one of them. Who is it? It's like, is it Tiny, Lycan? I don't know. I think there's 4. But it is still very good. And of course, added on to this, you have Atrophy Aura, which gives you 5 damage per lane creep that dies near you. Even at the first level, this effectively means you have almost permanent plus 20 damage. That's pretty close to just a Quelling Blade for free at all times, right? 4 creeps times 5 damage is 20. Of course, the buff lasting 30 seconds means pretty much every single time a wave dies, because they will die roughly 30 seconds apart, you'll have pretty close to a Quelling Blade of damage for completely free. Of course, that Quelling Blade of damage can also be used to hit enemy heroes, so it's pretty sweet. Also, he's laying against a Nature's Prophet. This is actually part of why I think this worked so well, because of course Nature's Prophet will attempt to summon these Treants in order to help him in the laning phase, but they are relatively easy farm for Underlord due to the way that Firestorm works, and on top of this, as they are turned into relatively easy farm, he actually gains more damage to get even more easy farm. Now, this is not a very active Underlord, which normally if you're offlane Underlord, you would want to be a little bit more active on the map in some cases, or at the very least trying to deny, you know, their position 1 of farm. Unfortunately, a position 1 Underlord, you're really just denying their offlaner farm, which it's fine. Right? It can definitely work. It depends on the team you're facing. It depends on the hero you're facing, all that sort of stuff. But most of the time, that's not really the biggest priority, at least not for a core hero. Normally, that's like, oh, the position 5 will come in and poke and kind of prod and, at the very least, eat up the regen of the offlaner, maybe making them, like Jerax is about to do here, although Jerax, of course, plays 4. In this game, he actually felt a bit more like a 5, I will say. That's one of the benefits of OG, is they're very flexible. I mean, that should show just from the fact that No Tail is playing Underlord in position 1. Like, yeah, they're ridiculously flexible in their roles. So, Jerax being a 5 in this game, or pretty close to a 5 in this game, it just kind of goes, you know, it just goes the way of most OG games, I guess, right? Like, it just works. So, a few more things to touch on before we get into talents, because, of course, he's nowhere near talents yet. We have some time. Item builds. Item builds are pretty cool on Underlord. I think for the most part, you do want to get a pipe at some point, and probably a Crimson Guard. Underlord doesn't have a lot of innate power on his own. He has a high amount of utility, with solid damage depending on the situation. And that's about it, right? That's how he works. He obviously is very hard to kill, just innately, due to the fact that he actually has pretty good base armor. I didn't even note it. How? I have it open. Sorry about this low frame rate while I'm tabbed out, by the way. Yeah, he has 2 base armor. So at level 1, he actually has 4 armor. That's pretty ridiculous. Now, on top of this, he, as a strength hero, of course, having higher strength gain than the average hero, he also benefits quite a lot from health regen, which is why you see a Ring of Health coming out here, and it will be built into a Vanguard with this Stout Shield. That just basically makes Underlord immortal, because the way that Atrophy and Block works, of course, is the Atrophy is debuff on the enemies, and then the Block is on you, so their damage gets reduced, and then that value is what the Block is taken from. So, basically, that means that if somebody is trying to auto-attack you, and you have a Vanguard as Underlord, if you know, or if they don't have, like, a lot of damage items, they will deal none. They will deal no damage to you. You're actually basically immortal, just from those two things, right? You even see that No-Tail doesn't have his ult yet. He's level 7, and he's gone for a 4-0, 3-0 build, which is fairly weird. Normally, you want to, and S4 got baited so hard, dude. They unfortunately had to blow the Chrono for that. They didn't, theoretically, they didn't need to. If S4 didn't get baited by the stick, somebody could have called out that stick, and it was very possible they wouldn't have needed to. But look at Spartan's health! Whack! It just chunks him. It just chunks him, because one hero died near Underlord, so he got 40 damage. He did hit 8, he did skill his ultimate. He does have a stick, which should just be perfect enough, but there's a glimpse back with even more perfect timing from Spartan. But he did almost kill Madara and Spartan, despite it being like a 4v1. So, you know, hero might be okay. Now, on top of what I already mentioned about Vanguard, the way that block and atrophy interacts, gives health, great, and then it gives 5.5 HP regen. Now, 5.5 is actually a lot of health regen. So they did change the way that health and mana regen formulas work, and interestingly enough, you actually see kind of that aspect of it with clarity here. So the way that health and mana regen work is nothing gives, no items or anything like that gives percent of either. In the past, I don't think there were any percent health regen except Heart of Tarrasque, but, and now Heart, I guess technically Heart still gives that. And I guess in a sense, alright, there's a couple things that might still give it, because I just thought of Cold Embrace as well. Because isn't that percent? Wait, is it? I don't know, man. Dota changes too much, it's hard to keep it all in my head. Point is, every item in the game, alright, that at least I'm certain of. Every item in the game gives flat health or mana regen. Again, of course, aside from Heart of Tarrasque's passive effect, they give flat numbers. And those flat numbers are often quite low. And the reason for this is because strength and int give percent of those. And the calculation is very simple. You take the flat values, add them all together, multiplied by the percent values. Of course, they're bonus, so 1%. So in this case, he has 74.4% mana regen. You would take his base mana regen plus whatever other mana regen he has, say clarity, and then multiply by 1.796, and you'll get to this value of 7.4. And the same is true for health regen. Main difference being between the two is that health regen scales at a much lower rate percentage-wise than mana regen. And that obviously makes quite a lot of sense, but it can still get pretty ridiculous. Now, again, like I said, Vanguard is actually fairly high. I believe Pipe might be the only thing that's like higher. I guess technically Crimson Guard is higher, but it was built out of Vanguard. So this is 6.5 actually. Okay, Hood of Defiance is already higher, but then Pipe is 6.5 plus 2. So this is 8.5. This is 8.5 health regen. This item is 3150 gold, and it is 8.5 health regen. Now again, it does scale pretty slowly. As you can see, 50 strength is, in this case, 35.9% HP regen. That doesn't sound like it scales too well. But you'll see. There will be a moment in this game. You may have already seen the clip of it, but it gets nutty. So now we can talk about talents real quick. As No-Tail very quickly approaches level 10. Should have it pretty much on this wave. If not, it'll be like one more creep. I think I'll have it though. Looks like it. I want to see if I'm right more than anything else right now. Oh no, he got XP jacked. Oh no, he's leaving the wave. Okay, no, he's coming back. But he got XP jacked. Oh my god, he actually would have had it. He actually would have had it. God, I have such a big brain. God, I'm so smart. That's me making a joke. Laugh, please. So, level 10. You have 30 move speed or 18 Firestorm wave damage. Both are quite good. You'll see No-Tail goes for the 30 move speed. They did change up, just like everybody else in 707, they did change up his talents quite a bit. Movement speed used to be at either 20 or 25, and it was a lot. Like, it was a ridiculous value. Let me actually see if I can pull it up. Again, sorry for the frame rate. Yeah, it's a whole thing. I don't know how to, like, make it smooth when I'm not tabbed in. I know if I mouse over it and I keep my mouse moving, I can keep it smooth. But if I'm not tabbed in, it just limits to 30 FPS. I don't know if there's like a setting or something. Anyway, he had move speed. Wait, did he not have move speed? I swear to God he had move speed. Who am I thinking of? Maybe I'm confusing it with attack speed. Anyway, his old talents were at level 10, 4 armor or +2 mana regen. It was a pretty simple choice pretty much all the time. You just took the mana regen. You really didn't need more more physical effective HP at all. And you're very mana hungry. And you're still very mana hungry, which is why No Tail had fucking 5 clarities and is just chugging them down one by one. Just one after the other, dude. Then at 15, he had 200 health or 8% spell amp, both incredibly boring and uninteresting talents, and you really didn't care to go for either of them. I think most of the time you took the health because health is health. And spell amp on effectively just Firestorm is super not great, especially when it's a low value like 8%. Then you had at 20, 50 attack speed or 100 cast range. That was a little bit closer, depending on if you were actually being a frontline punchy man, or if you were staying in the back and trying to be a teamfight controller for the most part. And then at 25, you had 0.4 second Pit of Malice root duration, or 50 health regen. So his talents now, obviously, have changed quite a bit. He has movement speed versus Firestorm wave damage at 10, already way more interesting. At 15, he has that 100 cast range, moved down from 20. He also has atrophy aura bonus damage from heroes added, 15 more. So that means whenever you kill a hero, instead of 45 damage for the hero dying in the 900 range, it'll be 60. They're both whatever, honestly. Neither is like super impactful and exciting, but the 15 atrophy attack bonus damage from heroes is actually very strong if you go for an Aghanim Scepter, which I will talk about in a minute. And then at 20, this is where shit gets ridiculous. He has 70 attack speed, which of course is buffed up from 50, versus 30 health regen, which was moved down from 25, and obviously reduced to compensate, but also reduced because, of course, of the way strength works now. It's still ridiculous, though. It might even be better than his old 25. Obviously, you're like, how is it possible it's better than his old 25? Well, you get it earlier, and you can get it above 50 health per second now. Right? Like, those 30, that 30 right there, you can get above 50 if you had 66.6% health regen from strength, which he's at 42.1 already. So that doesn't seem unreasonable. And then at 25, you have 25% Firestorm building damage or 0.8 second Pit of Malice root, which of course the root has been buffed. And then that Firestorm building damage is actually quite cool. So if you don't know how the math works out, it's very simple. Every tower now has the same amount of health. They all have 1600. None of them have magic resistance. And as such, Firestorm will do the exact same damage to buildings, no matter which building it is, and no matter what time of game it is. So because of this, it basically means that if you take this 25 talent, it will take you technically 7 casts, but it's just a little over 6 casts, so 6 casts and then somebody helping out, just a little bit extra damage on top of that, and then a tower dies. And you might be saying, okay, that sounds ridiculous. You just cast this spell, which has pretty decent range already, especially given the radius of 400, right? You just add 200 to the range to figure out the max distance you could hit a tower from. Added on top of that, you could also get the 100 cast range here, and fuck it, why not toss an Aether Lens on there for an extra 250? You could do all of that, and then you just have to cast this 6 times. That is 2 creep waves. How many times have you been defending high ground, right? How many times have you just been sitting there defending high ground, and you go through like 5+ creep waves of the enemy team, like about to come high ground, you kill the creep wave, they back off? How many times has that happened? Like every game, pretty much? Like literally every single game of Dota you've ever played in your entire life? Yeah, because that's how high ground pushing works. Imagine, in that time frame, the tower just fucking dies. What if it just fucking died? That'd be kind of wild, right? So it is a very powerful 25. Both talents are very powerful at 25, honestly. But of course, he's not going to get 25 this game. Unfortunately. Unfortunately, he does not get 25 this game. But I do think that there is definitely some thought that could go into trying to play Position 1 Underlord for the goal of hitting 25, because he theoretically could get 25 pretty easily. He doesn't have an XP talent, unfortunately, or fortunately, either way. So it's not the easiest thing in the entire world, but it is possible due to the fact that Firestorm is actually very good at flash farming. The biggest benefit of Firestorm is that it does percent max HP as burn damage. That's huge. This means that you can farm a large camp at around the same rate as, say, a small camp. And I say around, this obviously assumes that you're auto-attacking the large creep and stuff like that. This is such a cool play that almost works out, but very good glimpse from Spartan. Spartan was playing this game like crazy, like just super well. He was actually really on point this game. I really like the mouse guys. I really do. I think they're all really cool players, and every interview I've ever seen, or every piece of media having to do with them that I've ever seen, I'm like, yeah, they seem like cool dudes. So. And Spartan, like I said, was way on point this game. Fly was also very on point this game. This was a really good game for supports. Anyway, we see a team fight going out. Fly, of course, playing that Dark Willow hero can just, you know, make him run back to Fountain for 4 seconds. Just auto-disengage a fight that he's not the center of. Really good Pit of Malice to catch Madara just long enough for the Blink Skewer back, followed by a Cursed Crown after the RP as well. Picks up Madara pretty easily. He walked into another root, so he's just stuck there for 2.5 seconds. Of course, roots now, since I believe it was 7.0 that reworked roots. That would, yeah, that seems to be what is implied when I'm reading the changelogs for Underlord in 7.0. Since that point, roots are gross. They're just disgusting. Roots are just these heinous monstrosities, dude. Oh my god. They're just, ugh. Ugh. Like, you can't even use like half of your spells while rooted. Did you know that you can't even use Tricks of the Trade as Ricky Maru if you're rooted? Isn't that fucking insane? Jesus Christ. So having a ton of roots on your team is really gross for that reason that I said. Of course, roots being very powerful. But on top of that, having extra roots with Underlord is actually really smart, because it does allow you to multi-stack roots from Pit of Malice. Of course, with good positioning on Pit of Malice, it's theoretically possible that you give them the option of either walk into my team and die, or try and get out but get rooted 2 times, because, you know, you only have 1.8 seconds of downtime to run across theoretically the whole span of Pit of Malice, and then you will get rooted again at the other edge, and then we'd probably kill you anyway. But even on top of that, if you just throw another root into the mix, then they're getting hit by Pit of Malice a 3rd time, or even a 4th time. Who knows? You could just be rooted by Pit of Malice for the full 12 fucking seconds. It could just keep happening. Although I guess you probably can't get rooted 4 times, can you? No, you can't, right? Wait. How does this math work out? Wait, how does this math work out? Okay, so the first root. So, can you get rooted 3 times? You can. Right? Because that puts you to 10.8. So yeah, you can get rooted 4 times. Yeah. Yeah, you can totally get rooted 4 times. First Pit of Malice goes down 1 root. 3.6 seconds later, second root. 3.6 seconds later, we're now at 7.2 seconds into the whole thing. That's the 3rd root. Then 3.6 seconds later, you're at 10.8. There it is. I'm a genius. I'm a math god. I can multiply 3.6 times 3 and then add 1. Isn't that great? So, back to talents real quick, because of course he is 15. He did go for the atrophy attack bonus damage from heroes, which is a perfect segue for me to talk about the Aghanim Scepter that he never buys. So, Aghanim Scepter on this hero is pretty sweet. I don't think it'll actually show the upgrade if I mouse over it. Yeah, because I'm not actually playing Underlord. So I will read from the wiki. First of all, let's make sure we don't miss anything. Really smart play. They tried to smoke up. Something broke the smoke instantly. Zeus ults, scouts out, they see Ricky go right, but they also see Nature's Prophet in the trees. They decide, let's get the Prophet. So they throw a Pit of Malice onto the Prophet, and then Fly literally just solos him, which was, you know, whatever. Ricky got away, but who cares? So the Aghanim Scepter for Underlord is pretty sweet. Basically, it makes it so his Atrophy Aura damage bonus, this right here, which is currently at 110 for him because he killed a hero. Or he was near a hero dying, and also some creeps at some point. That now applies to allies within the Atrophy Aura radius of 900 at half the value. And it also increases the duration of the damage bonus from 60 seconds at level 4 up to 100 seconds. So what this basically means is that it makes it so if you win a team fight, and when I say you, I mean like you as the Underlord win a team fight, like you're in a team fight when you win, you then just walk down a lane and just end the game instantly. It's actually like, if they don't have buybacks, it's not just like, oh, we don't have buybacks, we'll lose a Rax, it sucks, but we're not out of the game. No. They hit the tier 3, it dies in 2 seconds flat, and then they march straight at the tier 4s, and you're starting to go, I'm respawning in 20 seconds, you alt ping your cooldowns, thinking that it'll somehow make your respawn time faster, hoping to God that you actually respawn before your throne explodes, but it's too late. 5 seconds later, the throne explodes because there's 5 heroes beating on it with like a rapier's worth of damage. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I'm like not even like really joking, right? With this talent, 60 damage, okay? 60. That means if it's a full 5-man wipe and you are within 900 range of each hero dying, you then have 300 damage on your own hero. 300. Every one of your allies near you will then have 150. It is ridiculous. It is very win more, admittedly. Like, it really is win more. So I think that's why No Tail didn't pick it up this game. I think that's why pros, I don't think I've seen a single Aghanim Scepter get picked up. In fairness, Underlord only had an Aghanim Scepter since 7.06. And he was only in Captain's mode since 7.00, and the time gap between 7.00 and now is a little bit shy of a year. So I'm not entirely shocked that we haven't seen a lot of, for one, we haven't seen a lot of Underlord, and two, obviously haven't seen a lot of Aghanim Scepter, because 7.06 is, when did that come out? It had to be like 6 months ago. Holy shit, I'm so smart. Oh my god, this video will go up on November 15th, 2017, and you want to know what? That means the 7.06 was literally exactly 6 months ago from the time this video is going up. Jesus Christ, can I get any smarter? God damn it, I'm fucking, God, yes! I make myself so, I was gonna say like horny, but like that's a little weird to get off it. Weird memorization of dates, encyclopedic knowledge of dates of patches releasing. It'd be a weird thing to jerk off to, but you know what? I've jerked off to weirder, I'll admit. So anyway, in order to attempt to segue away from that, whatever that was, let's talk about items again. So you can see that he has picked up a soul ring in the interim. He does have Crimson Guard and Pipe of Insight. This is, of course, a lot of HP regen, and also gives you everything you need. Oh, am I being attacked with physical damage? Well, I have a Crimson Guard. Oh, am I being hit by spells? Well, I have a Pipe of Insight. Oh, am I just being focused down by, like, 4 heroes? Let's just pop them both and see what happens. Oh, am I actually going to survive when I'm being focused down by fucking 5 heroes? Yes, I will, because I am Underlord. As you can see, it's very powerful. It's very potent. On top of this, he went for the Soul Ring, which, as I said, this hero is very mana-hungry. Soul Ring is actually tremendously powerful at this point for mana-hungry strength heroes, because it gives strength, gives HP regen, both things that are great, and then, of course, it gives mana, effectively. So, this item is very, very good for heroes like Underlord, so it's no surprise that he did pick it up, albeit late. I would have actually liked to see this after the Vanguard, before he went for Pipe, probably, but you know, it obviously didn't hurt him too terribly much, and he still is buying clarities because his hero is still that mana hungry, especially after losing the mana regen talent. You do kind of need to make up for his mana costs in some way. He then did go for a Force Staff, which does pretty similar things to the Soul Ring, as well as giving the utility of it being a Force Staff. Intelligence and HP regen is effectively mana regen and HP regen. Also, it's max mana, which is pretty sweet too. And then, of course, still has the Force effect, which I think the reason he picked this up mostly is due to that Force effect being very, very good to deal with Disruptor. One of the worst things to happen if you're playing Dota is basically just being disrupted, right? Where you're trying to escape, he glimpses you from like 4,000 units away, and then you're like, oh no, I've been glimpsed. And then you try your hardest to not die, but it doesn't matter, because by the time the glimpse finishes, you are in a static storm, and there's a kinetic field around you. And it just sucks. You can't do anything. And that sort of experience is very common with Disruptor, even without the glimpse, so buying a Force Staff for that is very good. Obviously, getting out of Sprout is also very good. So you can see he hit 20, took the 30 HP regen. Now, I would like you to note this value here, this number right there, that little green number at the end of that green bar. Now, I'm sure you can read that and say, oh, yes, this is a value of health regen. Well, please note how many heroes are now hitting this Underlord. This is a wonderful clip. That's 5, by the way. That was 5 heroes. That was 5 heroes hitting the Underlord for the full time it took his team to teleport in and fly to throw a Terrorize. He still has above 90% life, and they're just killing everybody. They just kill they kill them all. That's it. That's how the game ends. They tried to kill Underlord with fucking 5 heroes. 5 goddamn heroes. And you wanna know what happened? They just couldn't do it. It wasn't even close. Let's try and note the lowest his health gets. Alright, this should be fine. There will be some replay bugs because of the jumping back, but this is fine. So, actually, is it? Yeah, okay. I remember the hotkeys. Alright, please note his health points. Alright, Pit of Malice. Okay, Firestorm. He's like, I see heroes. Heroes start going on him. He's Orchided. He's also Smokescreen. They also have a Solar Crest on him, reducing his armor. They also have a Grave Chill on him, reducing his move speed. He's also in a Sprout, but he did hit his 2 buttons. These 2 buttons have been hit. So now here comes a missile. He's decided, oh, in literally the entire duration of the I love the affirmative. In the entire duration of the Orchid, I have taken a total of none. I have taken a total of actually no damage. So he decides to turn around. And then here's a Static Storm going down. Here's a Call Down going down. How many more spells can he take? Well, it doesn't matter now because the Dark Willow has come in with a Terrorize, and it doesn't matter. This is the lowest his health got, like 66%. Dude's not even hurting, you know. Like he actually is not even in any remote danger. Okay, this feels like too fast, but I guess this is full speed. So, anyway, that's Underlord. Of course, OG won the game. I never clicked net worth, but you can see he was keeping up pretty well. Obviously above all of Mouse. Obviously this is after the fight, but he was still around this spot pretty much the whole game. Not quite as much as Resolution, but that's fine. And you can see, by the way, they killed everybody but Ricky here, and he has 260 damage, right? That puts him to 400 damage before reductions from an auto attack. That's ridiculous. So, of course, Mouse called GG for a variety of reasons, one of which being that they literally could not kill a man despite throwing 5 heroes at him. So there's that. Let's hop out of the game and actually look at the stat screen at the end real quick, just to show some things I may have missed. Pertaining to Underlord. He was the highest level in the game. Of course, that means he had the highest GPM in the game. Or, sorry, XPM in the game. GPM wasn't the most. Hero damage, he actually had more than Rezo, obviously less than Jerax. So he actually had basically the highest in the game. Zeus doesn't really count for this metric. It's very easy to just get a very high number of Zeus. It's pretty much free. So he actually did have the highest hero damage in the game, which is pretty incredible. He also only had 1 kill, which is even funnier to me. But he also only had 1 death. Skill build wise, as we touched on earlier, he actually grabbed his first point in the ultimate at 8, and that was actually specifically when he saw a time to use it. I have a feeling that if he didn't see a time to use it upon hitting 8, he actually would have gone for the Pit of Malice point at 8, and then probably Dark Rift at 9. I can't imagine you withholding the Dark Rift until like 11. I imagine you do get it before 10 because you really do want one of the talents at 10, probably the move speed in most cases. And then, of course, like I said, he maxed Firestorm, got a lot of Atrophy Aura, maxed that second, and then maxed Pit of Malice last. Dark Rift when he could, obviously aside from level 6. He went move speed, atrophy, attack bonus damage from heroes, and 30 health regen, which is just nuts. Like I said, the health regen formula, there's a few things that go into why I think Underlord is ridiculously strong right now. I already, like I said, thought he was strong before. 707 in specific didn't do much to make him better. The main things that made him better in 707 were his health, or his base regens, both health and mana, were buffed substantially. His previous base HP regen was 0. And then, of course, he had base regen from strength, because that's how strength used to work. That was buffed from 0 to 1.5. Mana regen was buffed from 0.01, which I believe was the global mana regen base, to 0.9, which I believe is now the new global mana regen base. I'm not certain of either of those. But both of those regens were buffed, and then his talents were reworked entirely. And you might say, oh, well, the talents being reworked looks good on paper. The regen bonuses look good on paper, but how would that take him from, this hero who, was like niche pickable but not super strong to ridiculous? Well, that mostly lies in all of the other changes in 707, which I will just go into 707 really quickly to look for this. There were a lot of 706s, Jesus Christ. Just to look for this real quick. Not in heroes. Mechanics. Yeah. So in mechanics, of course, aside from what I already mentioned, specifically the health and mana regen now being percents based on your strength and int. So in late game, you do actually get quite a lot of regen in general, pretty much as anybody. But on top of that, he is a strength hero. Underlord is a strength hero, and this means as a strength hero, he also gains status resist based on his strength. Okay. Did he say girth? Behold his vile girth. Also, I don't know if you guys have noticed, he has weird, gorilla hands. He's like a gorilla leaning forward, but instead of a gorilla head, he just has an upper torso. It's very weird. Also, I guess instead of being, I don't know, he's not even really a gorilla, huh? Because, these are just dinosaur feet. He has weird dinosaur feet, like gorilla hands for his front feet, and then just normal hands. He's a weird guy. But yeah, so he gets the status resist, which actually, let's pop in a demo real quick and just show, because I didn't check in the replay, and I would have to reload it up and get to that point in the game to actually show that. So instead, we will go all the way up to, I believe 21 is where we ended. My keyboard's in a weird spot. And then just copy these talents. Just get pretty much everything that No-Tail had. What were his boots? Treads? Yeah. This looks right. Yeah, that's around where his health regen was. He had a little bit more. I think this was something with health regen on it, or strength on it. Who cares? This is close enough. So, this is somewhere around where No-Tail was at the end of the game. And, we can see that he had 15.2% status resist. Now, you might be saying, that doesn't sound like a whole lot. Or you could be in the other camp and screeching on Reddit about how it makes everybody land from Tornado differently without taking into account the fact that it literally only affects strength heroes. But in either camp, 15.2% is actually fairly significant for a hero who has such a high base health pool for a buffer, along with the fact that he is just so innately tanky from Atrophy Aura, and the item build, of course, doesn't hurt that at all. For a hero like Underlord, 15.2% is actually very, very nice. This basically means, obviously, the total amount of status, or yeah, the total amount of crowd control that actually affects you is just overall reduced by 15.2. This means that if they have 10 seconds of straight chain stun, you're only affected for 8.5 seconds. And again, that might not sound like a whole lot, but that 8.5 seconds versus 10 seconds can easily make the difference between, for example, even getting one of these skills off, right? For example, if you're Orchided, let's just say that you're Orchided and you need to Dark Rift. Well, Orchid lasts. Orchid lasts. Let me just reach into the data bank here because I'm so smart. 5 seconds. Orchid lasts 5 seconds, and of course, 15% off of that would be 0.75 seconds, and that means that you're only Orchided for 4.25 seconds versus the 5. This means that you have, like I said, a 0.75 second difference. That is about the cast point of Dark Rift. That means that if, in the situation where you're Orchided, right, and then you'll die within 4 seconds of the Orchid going off, or finishing, with this 15% status resist, you actually have a chance to live in that situation. Right, in fact, you'll pretty much exactly live in that situation if the timings work out, right? So that's pretty cool, right? That's actually pretty sweet. I'm going to reiterate that really quickly because I don't think I articulated it too well. Without status resist, if you're going to die in 9.6 seconds, this will just not be enough with Orchid on you. But if you're going to die in that exact same time frame, with status resist, so 9.6 seconds, you actually get out a little under 9 seconds. So you'll actually be home free with somewhere around a second to spare. Obviously, it's a little fudged, but it's also because this is 15.2 and not 15 flat, and obviously that can also change if you have, say, I don't know, let's just say you have like a really cheap strength item, like a heart. 21.2, obviously that is a pretty significant difference. That's even more than a second off of the Orchid effect. So that is the power of status resist, is it allows you to break out of these things just that little bit sooner to maybe get your abilities off when you need to, or even items if it's pure stuns, or even breaks, or sorry, not breaks, mutes, like from Nullifier actually. Now everybody gets a mute, right? Like what if you're nullified, but you want to use these? You can't do it, but now you can do it slightly sooner, so that's cool. And that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this was, at the very least, entertaining, but hopefully educational as well. You know, if it was, you know, leave a like, comment, whatever. Do all that good shit. Obviously, I can't make you. I'm not your dad, but he probably couldn't make you either. I know you. I know your type. You're a rebel. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I'll see you, like, fuck, I can't outro. I'll see you later. Shit!